Did you know that roughly 80% of people who feel genuinely stuck in life blame their external circumstances for where they are? They wait. They wait for a better economic climate, a boss who finally notices their worth, or a sudden stroke of good luck. But the story of the two brothers reveals a truth that comforts no one. Your reality is shaped entirely by your choices, not your luck. If you are constantly waiting for the world to change so that you can finally start living, you have handed the remote control of your happiness to a world that doesn't even know you're watching. The more desperately you want to change your life, the harder it actually feels to take the first step. It feels like trying to swim upstream while wearing concrete boots. And the truth is, your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Taking ownership isn't just difficult to your subconscious mind, it is terrifying. Why? Because when you look at your life through the lens of pure responsibility, a devastating realization sets in. You have to admit how much of your current daily pain has been handed to you on a silver platter by your own habits, your own silences, and your own comfort-seeking choices. And the truth is, your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Taking ownership isn't just difficult. To your subconscious mind, it is terrifying. Why? Think of a man named David. For 7 years, David sat at a corporate desk, feeling his soul slowly dimming. He hated the culture, he hated the commute, and he felt completely invisible. Every night he would come home, pour a drink, and complain to his wife about how the company was ruining his mental health, how the job market was impossible, and how he was trapped. But one night his wife asked him a gentle, piercing question. "David, how many job applications have you sent out this month?" The room went dead silent. The answer was 0. In that uncomfortable silence, David realized a terrifying truth. He didn't actually want to leave. He was using his bad job as a shield. As long as he was the victim of a bad company, he didn't have to risk updating his resume, interviewing, failing, or being rejected. The cage was suffocating, but it was familiar. Let's be entirely honest. Most people would secretly rather be victims than victors. Being a victim is incredibly comfortable. It means you don't have to fix a single thing. You can just sigh, shrug your shoulders, and play the role of the misunderstood martyr. But here's the cruel irony. The more you allow external forces to define who you are, the less power you possess to change your destination. So, how do we break out of the cage? It begins with a fundamental shift in perception, recognizing that your life isn't something that happens to you. It is something you actively shape through the way you respond, adapt, and grow. Let's walk through the 3 specific pillars that will anchor you in this truth. Pillar 1. Claim your choices every single day. From the moment your eyes open, you are making hundreds of micro decisions. To take ownership, you must bring these choices out of the shadows of habit and into the light. Consider the story of Sarah. For a long time, Sarah's narrative was, "I want to build a creative side project, and I want to take care of my physical health, but I simply don't have the time." It felt like an absolute, unshakable fact of adulthood. One Tuesday morning, she decided to track her actual time. She discovered that she was spending 90 minutes every single evening, mindlessly scrolling through social media to numb her daily stress. She didn't lack time. She was actively choosing to trade her long-term dreams for short-term comfort. When you wake up late or miss a critical deadline, your instinct is to blame the alarm, the traffic, or an overwhelming workload. Instead, I want you to look in the mirror and ask, what sequence of choices did I make that allowed this result to happen? This isn't about beating yourself up or drowning in guilt. Guilt is useless. This is about clarity. The moment you admit that a bad situation was the result of your choices, you instantly realize that a better situation can be created by making different choices. Pillar 2. Build daily rituals of accountability. Big, extraordinary lives are not built by massive, one-time bursts of willpower. They are built by small, mundane, consistent actions that compound over time. And the easiest way to make these actions stick is to wrap them in daily rituals. Think of a ritual as an anchor. Let's look at how elite writers, artists, and leaders maintain momentum. They don't wait for inspiration. They build a sacred container for their habits. If you find yourself drifting financially, professionally, or creatively because you are avoiding your realities, do not rely on a sudden burst of motivation to fix it. Instead, build an accountability ritual. Every Sunday evening, put on your favorite instrumental music, pour a hot cup of tea, and open your weekly planner or your budget sheet. That specific 20 minutes is not for self-judgment. It is for sober reflection. By anchoring accountability to a comforting, predictable ritual, it ceases to feel like a punishment and begins to feel like pure self-respect. Pillar 3. Embrace the power of I can. This is the threshold where fear transforms into courage. To understand the true weight of this pillar, we must look at one of the most powerful stories in human history. The story of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who was imprisoned in the horrific concentration camps of World War II. Frankl lost his freedom, his career, his health, and his entire family. He possessed absolutely nothing. Yet, under the most brutal conditions imaginable, he noticed something incredible. The guards could control his body, they could take his clothes, and they could starve him. But there was one thing they could never touch. Frankl called it the last of the human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. He realized that between the external stimulus and his internal response, there was a tiny sacred space, and in that space lay his power to choose. He chose to visualize himself teaching students after the war. He chose to share his tiny piece of bread with a man who was weaker than him. He chose to say, I can still control who I am inside. If a human being can claim the power of I can in the depths of a concentration camp, what excuse do we have when our internet is slow, our meeting runs late, or our plans get disrupted? He chose to share his tiny piece of bread with a man who was weaker than him. When a crisis hits your life, catch your mind when it defaults to this is too hard, or I am ruined. Replace it with Frankl's realization. Ask yourself, what is one small practical step I can take right now? The I can mindset is a fierce refusal to let your pain have the final word in your story. Now, let's move this from an abstract concept into your physical reality. I don't want you to just listen to these stories, nod your head, and then go back to your old routines. We need to ground this right now. Sometime today, I want you to sit down in a quiet room with a blank sheet of paper and a pen. Take a deep breath, look at your life with radical honesty, and write down the one specific area where you have been blaming other people, your environment, or your past for why things aren't working. Write it down at the top of the page, and then beneath it, perform an act of radical translation. Rewrite every single complaint as a choice. If your mind says, my environment is holding me back from succeeding, translate it to, I have chosen to stay in this environment because leaving it feels terrifying. If your mind says, I don't have the energy to work on my dreams, translate it to, I am choosing daily habits that deplete my energy because they offer me immediate comfort. Fill that page. Write it down at the top of the page, and then beneath it, perform an act of radical translation. Rewrite every single complaint as a choice. This process is going to feel deeply uncomfortable. It might make you angry, but as you read those reframed sentences out loud, notice the profound shift happening beneath the discomfort. You are reclaiming your power. If you choose your way into this room, you have the absolute power to choose your way out. Once you have faced that truth, pick one ridiculously small decision you can execute today that reflects this new ownership. It doesn't need to be an overhaul of your life. It can be choosing to spend 30 minutes reading a deeply enriching book instead of watching television. It can be choosing to have that difficult, honest conversation you've been avoiding for months. Whatever it is, set a timer, refuse to overthink it, and go do it. Discover for yourself that taking action always moves you forward. At the end of the day, you must realize that you are the sole architect of your reality. Every single micro choice you make, every small ritual of accountability you protect, And every deliberate shift from I am helpless to I will act. These are the solid bricks you are laying down to build a life that feels authentic, heavy with meaning, and completely unstoppable. Discover for yourself that taking action always moves you forward. At the end of the day, you must realize that you are the sole architect of your reality. It is never going to be easy. The world will continue to be unpredictable. People will continue to disappoint you, and your own biology will beg you to return to the comfort of the couch and the safety of excuses. But stepping out of the cage is always worth it, because when you finally take total ownership of your life, you stop desperately chasing happiness from external sources, and you start manufacturing it from within. You stop looking around the room waiting for permission to begin, and you realize that you already hold the authority to act. This deep internal work is exactly why I wrote my book. If you can imagine it, you can make it a guide to discover yourself. I didn't write it for casual dreamers who want to wish their way into a better life. I wrote it because I believe deeply in the profound power of the individual who is ready to become a doer. This entire journey isn't about fixing a version of you that is fundamentally broken. It is about boldly claiming the authentic life you were always meant to construct. If these stories shook something loose inside you today, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment sharing the one area of your life you are choosing to reclaim today. Let's commit to holding each other accountable as we grow. The world is already filled to the brim with people waiting for a light to turn on. Do not join them in the dark. You are the spark. Now step into your authority, claim your choices, and go make it shine.